it's San Antonio prison in Margarita. It's like a village. It's a self-sufficient village, like contained within the perimeter of the wall.
Prisoners with
shotguns patrolling the roof of the prison.
The police are just letting them get on with whatever they get on with. If it kicks off, we're then going to get involved.
You can do anything you want in there except get out. It's kind of highlighted that they haven't really got any control, and they don't appreciate that.
Were you thinking the worst thing could happen here, or were you just not caring?
I was at a point where I didn't really value my life.
Did you ever think about escaping? Natty, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. I really do appreciate you flying over from Spain for this one. This is a very special moment, this one.
Okay, well, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. Let's start. Let's get cracking. Let's roll all the way back. And where did you grow up, and how did you end up in Venezuela's most deadliest prison?
So I grew up in Gloucester, and I had quite a particularly evil stepfather. So I ended up being put into the system and ended going up into a children's home when I was about, 12, 13, I think. So then, I was just messed up, like most children that come from like damaged homes, they kind of struggle as they start to go into adulthood. They struggle they haven't quite learnt the kind of basic cognitive skills that most people learn. So to then, like when I came out of the children's home, I had some difficulties in there as well. I had a relationship with my social worker, who's the father of my child.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You had a relationship with a social worker when you went into a social home?
Yeah.
Social care home. What age did you go into the social care home?
12 or 13.
And how old were you when you started a relationship with the...
14.
My God, and how old was he?
32.
You're joking, mate.
No. Yeah, so it kind of like went from one kind of extreme situation to another extreme situation. And then, like in the children's home, we just ran riot. There was no consequences to actions. I got expelled from school from one day and took like 10 pin bowling the next day. Got caught shoplifting one day and then was in the office the next day getting my clothing grant. So it sounds like quite a bizarre concept, but I really didn't understand that if you do something wrong, there are consequences to that, which sounds like absurd really, but if you're not grown up, taught these things, and you just don't kind of grasp, the consequences of your actions.
What was the bit where who was it, your mum or your dad put you in social care?
It was like the police, really. So I didn't react very well to how like my stepdad was treating me. So I rebelled against it quite a lot. And then...
So it was your stepdad who was evil?
Yeah.
Why was he evil?
I don't know, man. Like...
What did he used to do
to make him just evil? Abused me, like mentally, physically, like literally like tortured me, like physically tortured me and like physically, mentally like abused me. And like my mum, I don't really know, like I just don't think she knew. I think that by the time it kind of got like that, I think that he'd probably kind of like worked on her and had her like, he was quite
manipulated.
I think so. And I just think that she was just in a position where she just didn't know what to do. She had like children with him and they had a house, and I think that he had like mentally abused her. So she didn't really like stick up for me, but I was just trying to like defend myself all the time, and so it was just full on like I said, violence and torturing in the family home. It was horrendous.
Wow. So what age were you introduced to your stepdad?
As soon as he's like from whenever I can remember.
So from birth? From
birth, yeah.
Up until the age of 12, 13, you were mentally and physically tortured by this guy?
Yeah, constantly. Yeah. And then like, so it really affected me like with my friendship groups, because he didn't hold back in front of like friends either. So no one wanted to come around my house, you know? So I'd like, go, you know, like most people, most kids, they're going around each other's houses, aren't they? And playing around each other's houses. And like my friend like had come round and my stepdad, like he didn't care. He just like still beat me, like physically just annihilated me. Like
what punch?
Yeah. I'd be like black and blue and broken bones. And yeah, it was pretty bad.
Is he still alive, this man?
Yeah.
Have you seen him since?
I saw him like when I came back from Venezuela. My mum died while I was in Venezuela, and so I had a brother and sister that lived with him. So when I came back from Venezuela, I went back to get my sister out of the house, because he carried on. He did the same thing with her. You know, it wasn't just specific to me. He did the same thing with his own daughter.
What's his name?
I can't say that.
Why not?
I can't say that because I could get into trouble. Yeah.
Do you feel hugely angered of what's gone on?
I did, for like a long time, because of like, I used to think if he wasn't in my mum's life, how would my life have like gone in the direction that my life would have gone in? But, you know, everything happens for a reason, and I was strong enough to take it. So it's taken a long time, but to come to terms with it. And when I think about the direction that my life has gone in and where I am now, I wouldn't have any of that without any of that. And I think if it hadn't have been me, then maybe it would have been someone else that wouldn't have been strong enough to handle it and wouldn't have done the things I have. So you just have to kind of like accept it and find some peace with it.
Was it a relief for you when you got put into social care?
Oh, so much, yeah, massively. Like I didn't want to go back at all. Like my mum wanted me to go back, and I just like there was just no way.
So you were going into social care in a real vulnerable state. And did you find that a 32-year-old took advantage of a vulnerable 14-year-old?
I didn't think so at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't think so at the time. Like I say I played my part, but you know, I was like a messed up kid, really, you know, and he was in a position where if he's got a messed up 14 kind of making advances at him, then it's his job to, you know, decline those advances, not to feel flattered by them. It's, you know, but then it's also like, I find it really weird that like, because he was my key worker, so I find it really odd that social services allocated me a 32-year-old male key worker. Like that's absurd. You know, for a 14-year-old vulnerable girl that has a history of, you know, abuse, and also a history of, you know, inappropriate relationships with older men, like who in their right mind then, you know, and especially in an industry that's supposed to be savvy in this kind of area, then allocates you, you know, with a 32-year-old male figure for you to then kind of confide in and to take care of you and trying to get to the root of your problems. You know, I just find that, you know, absurd.
Absolutely. And did you have a relationship with him for how long?
I was 19, I think, in the end when it finished. Yeah.
And what age were you when you had a kid with him?
16.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he was still working as a care worker when you had a kid with him. People didn't know.
You know, he lost his job
because of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was married as well, like married with kids. I know, right?
He couldn't write it.
I know. Yeah. No, he lost his job for gross misconduct.
So we should have.
Yeah.
That's a piss take.
I know.
And I'm like you said there, I know you've taken responsibility as well by saying, well, actually, you know, I was making advances, and so you have taken responsibility there. But still, a 32-year-old man getting paid to protect people like yourself.
Should be refusing those advances.
Immediately.
Like I try and think of if I had a younger boy like making advances, you know, you just like,
You don't even go through your mind.
No.
Yeah.
No, so it's all, but I mean, social services, I mean, it was just an absolute nightmare. The things that the social workers were up to in the children's home that we lived in, it was just like the culture that they had. You know, there was a social worker that was a heroin addict, and he used to lock himself in. We used to love it when he was on duty, you know, because we just like absolutely ran riot, because he'd be like in the office, you know, like smacked up, like just not really very responsive, you know, and give us anything we wanted, because he just wanted us to go away, because he's like gouging out in the office. He sold his story to the newspapers.
What's his name?
He's dead now. Gary, his name was Gary. I can't remember what his last name was, but yeah, he died of an overdose in the end. He used to send, we used to go out, and he used to send us into the pharmacy to pick up, like, he wasn't allowed, there were certain like cough medicines and things like that the pharmacist wouldn't sell him anymore, because they had like opiates in them, and he was just known. So we'd be out in like the children's home car, he'd be like picking us up from somewhere or taking us out from somewhere, and he'd pull over at the pharmacists and like get us running in to like get these medicines and stuff that he wasn't allowed. And then there was another one that kidnapped one of the boys and took him away to a holiday home, abused him, and then hung himself in the holiday home with the boy there. So it was just, you know, it's just a horrendous culture.
And what year are we talking here, roughly?
So this was, let me think, 25, 30 years ago.
So what are we talking here, in the 90s?
In the 90s, yeah. Yeah, in the like mid-90s, like mid to...
And just explain to me, what is a care home? Is a care home is where all the kids are in one home, and people are coming in and out looking after you the whole time, or are they sleeping and staying there the whole time?
They're sleeping and staying. Like, I don't think they even exist anymore, from what I can gather. Like, I don't think the children's homes even exist anymore. I think they just have like, you either go into foster care or they have like supported housing, because of this culture, because I think it got discovered that it just really wasn't helpful for the kid. Because, you know, you've got messed up kids there. So what you're going to do, you're going to put like, there were 50, I think there were about 50 of us. We lived in this massive...
Did you have a good laugh in there?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I was about to say, all these stories stuff, but you had a right laughter too. Yeah,
we were just like, we were wild, you know. And we had like, and it was this massive mansion house, you know. We had these huge grounds, and there were like 50 of us living there from the age of like 9 up to 16. You've got 50 messed up, you know, rebellious kids living together. You know, I remember once we were causing so much ruckus that the manager of the children's home just got so fed up with me, and he locked me and my friend in the top room of the children of this mansion, locked us in. He'd had enough. So I managed to get out through a barred window, you know. I started young,
You learnt your trade.
Yeah, I think that's where it came from. It was just a little practice run. So I managed to like get out through this barred window, climbed up onto the roof. They phoned the police. So the police came, brought their ladders, climbed up on the roof, negotiated with me to get down. So I got down, then I ran off with a ladder and left the police and the manager.
So they couldn't get down?
Left them all on top of the children's room.
Quality.
You know? Yeah, we were just... Because again, like I said, it was just like this...
No rules?
No, well, there were rules.
But to be broken?
But because if you broke them, what could they do? Yeah. Like, we'd go out... And they'd say, right, you have to be at like Gloucester bus station at, 8 o'clock. You know, the car's going to be there to pick everyone up at 8 o'clock. And you're right, 8 o'clock comes, you're like, I don't want to go home. Yeah. And they've got to pick you up. When you phone them up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you say, come and get me, they can't say no. Yeah. They have to come and get you.
And how old were you when you left the home?
16.
So is that the rules at 16? You're on your own?
I left on my 16th birthday.
Were there drugs in the home?
Yeah, there was. It was amphetamine. Everyone's like smoking hash and speed. Yeah, amphetamine.
And what was your journey at the age of 16? Obviously, you got pregnant with the care home worker. Mm-hmm. What was your journey from 16 onwards there then, in your teens?
So I was taking drugs, like not when I was pregnant, but I got into the rave scene. So I was going to a lot of raves, like the dreamscapes and the fantasias and like the free parties, you know, the illegal ones
Good
in
times.
the barns and the warehouses.
They're the best times of the 90s, weren't they?
Yeah. So I was into that. So I was taking pills and sniffing coke, and you know, it was like Mitsubishi turbos at the time, and you know, happy hardcore and all that kind of thing. So and I was taking amphetamines as well. So I was like kind of like really into that. But I was still, I was just messed up still, you know. I was still quite young, like emotionally underdeveloped, really, I think, and immature. So I still kind of wasn't processing anything from my childhood, from my stepdad, or like, and I think I was just kind of like processing that this relationship that I'd had with this social worker that it wasn't right, you know, but I was still just kind of struggling to deal with all that. So I was just like masking those feelings, and instead of like dealing with it and trying to come to terms with understand of it, just kind of pushing that all to one side. So I was taking like the pills, the coke, the speed, and then
whilst looking after your kid.
She'd be like, no, I'd go out and take like those things.
And
like,
how are you earning money to look after your little one?
So I used to work for the fair. Like I used to run away with them all the time when I was in the children's home, and then when I left the children's home, I was still working for them.
What, the fun fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you go and work all around the cut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd run away, go and find them and work with them.
Yeah.
And then I'd work on, like, they had a food stall in the town centre, so I'd like work for them. And then I was on benefits as well, you know. I was a single mum, I had a council flat and benefits, and then I just like have a babysitter and like go out to the parties and the rave, and that's when I take the pills and everything. But then so I split, I think when I was like 19, like I really realised like how wrong this relationship was, and like how messed up it was, and started to feel like quite conscious, like that he was like a lot older than me, and like it was just, you know, I really started to understand that it just wasn't right. So I parted ways and like split up with the social worker, which was quite difficult, really. He kept saying to me all the time he was going to leave his wife and that we were going to be together, and, you know, blah-de-blah, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it took a few years for me to realise that was just lip service. And then the area that I was living in, there was, like, all the yardies had come over from Jamaica. And it was just a massive influx of, like, crack cocaine in Gloucester. I don't know what it's like now, but in Gloucester, like towards the end of the 90s, they had loads of like crews that had come over, like proper organised crews coming over, and they just flooded the area with crack cocaine. And I suppose I was a prime target, really. You know, I didn't really have much family support. I didn't have any family support. You know, I was quite vulnerable. And there was a girl that lived in the area, and she just kind of made a beeline for me. You know, she'd come round and started bringing, you know, crack round and sharing it with me. And I thought that, you know, it was really nice of her, because I knew that it was expensive, but like that was it. Once I tried it, it just completely like had me.
Do you remember the first time you tried crack?
I remember the first time she brought it round, and it just like blew my head away, really. It was just like, it was such an intense feeling, like the rush and the physical feeling of it. Just I didn't have time. I just wasn't able to like think about anything, you know, because it was just like you know, like an explosion of pleasure in the brain.
And how long does that last for?
Oh, not very long.
Okay.
Yeah. Not very long, and you're like climbing the walls for the next
hit.
For the next hit. So she was like bringing this round all the time, and because I didn't have any money. And then I remember like this had been going on for like maybe a couple of weeks, and I got my gyro, and that was it, man. It was gone in like in an hour. Like every penny just gone. Like, and then I just got into this loop then of just, and then kidding myself, being like, I won't do it next time, and it doesn't work like that. And then just getting involved in crime and stuff to support my habit.
Was that the time when you realised you had an addictive personality?
I was disappointed in myself, because I don't think I really knew much about addictive personalities or anything like that. But I was embarrassed, I was really embarrassed, and was trying to hide it from my friends, and which is silly because they could have helped me.
Yeah.
And instead of me kind of admitting what was going on, I was just like, no. And it was so obvious because I'm like hanging around with yardies. I'm looking like a skeleton. I've got no money, but no, I'm not smoking crack.
There's a few signs
just
there,
like,
isn't there?
just like this kind of, I don't know, world that I'd kind of created for myself, all this, I don't know, just naivety of just kind of kidding myself, really.
And what did that lead to then? You're doing crack, you got introduced to this girl, obviously she had a beeline on you, thinking, hold on a minute, I can get her to do things for me. What was the next steps for you to be earning money via that woman there? Yeah,
well, she introduced me to all the crack dealers then. Like she was kind of like, her kind of role was to go out and find people and like get them hooked on crack and then bring them to the dealers, so the dealers were then like
own them,
and just getting more new customer. So they used to give her crack to then go and find to give to the people, get them hooked, and then introduce them and meet them. So then I started doing credit card. I was doing fraud and credit card, working for a crew. And again, just being kind of manipulated, really, earning loads of money for everybody else and actually kind of being like bullied a little bit and not really earning much myself out of it. Kind of just trapped then, really.
Did you feel like you were completely owned at one point?
Yeah, massively, like totally. Owned by the drug and owned by the people. Yeah. And I just didn't know what to do. I just couldn't. I'd keep saying every day I'd wake up and be like, I'm not going to do it today, but it just doesn't work like that. And then it just becomes such a routine and a habit that you don't know what else to do because your life has been consumed by that. So you wake up in the morning and you're like, right, how am I going to school today? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So you've got structure to your day, and you have this circle of people that you're around. So if you don't do that, all of a sudden you're just like, you don't know what to do, like with yourself, and you're just kind of sat in your house, like with your thoughts, and it's just easier to just go and take the drugs and not be left alone with your thoughts and have that structure again of being busy and, plotting and scheming.
And was you waking up every day going, I need to earn enough money to get me a gram of crack?
My whole life was just literally like it was totally revolved around how I was going to score. If I didn't have any money or if I didn't have, something set up already, it was my whole thoughts were consumed with what I was going to do and how I was going to get money.
Wow. God, you must have felt completely trapped at every
angle. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And I was like I said, I was just like, I was so ashamed of it was just soul destroying, And
what was your route then? What was your route at the age of 19? You're probably, a 3-year-old kid now, daughter?
Yeah.
What was your route when you were so trapped in that? Was there a route they were saying, right, you can earn some bigger money here?
It was, so I got offered to start smuggling. And there were like a couple of reasons like why I wanted to do it. It was, sounds like crazy, but I think the biggest thing for me was it was an opportunity to get away from the crack, which sounds crazy, but it was like, do you want to go? And it was like, right, if I go there, like I can't get it. That, even though I might have a suitcase of it, I can't just start like opening up a suitcase and like
tucking in.
Yeah. So and then like when I was offered the money, I thought, right, so I can go there, I can have a break from it, I can get my head together, I can get clean, and then when I come back, because I had nothing dodged, like I'd sold everything, no sofa, no TV, like honestly my flat was just like so bare, no clothes, like just nothing at all. So I thought, like, well, if I go there, I can get clean, I can get some money, and then when I come back, you know, I won't do it anymore, and I'll turn my life around, and I can decorate my flat, and just, you know, the lies that you say to yourself and you kid yourself to justify your actions as an addict.
Where were you, what countries did you start smuggling drugs into, and what drugs was it?
So I started off with Jamaica, and I was supposed to be bringing back some cocaine from Jamaica, but it went wrong. So when I was there, I actually didn't have to bring anything back in the end. So I was quite happy because I got a free holiday to Jamaica.
So give me an example of that. How much would they pay you to go to Jamaica? They pay your flight, but they get you to meet someone on the other end. There's a suitcase waiting. What?
Yeah.
Break it down for me.
So you have your flight paid for, and then so in Jamaica, I was staying like it was a hotel. Well, it was. I don't know if it was like it's not a hotel that any tourists would go to. Yeah. And then I was supposed to swallow it in Jamaica. Like they took me to this, I stayed in the hotel for a bit, and then they took me to like a house in the country, and I was supposed to swallow these bullets. They were like probably about that big, and probably about, when I saw them, I thought, there's no how on earth you're supposed to like swallow those. But then we heard, like the people that I was working for in the UK heard that one of the rival gangs had found out that I was over there, and they'd grasped me up, and we'd heard that the police were going to be like waiting for me, interrogating me at the airport. So at the last minute I didn't have to do it, which was like quite a big relief, because I didn't know how I was going to do it. When I saw the size of these like bullets I had to swallow, I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do that. So I didn't get paid for anything for that, but I got a free holiday.
And how long were you there for?
About 9 days, I think.
And did you not get what was going through your mind? Okay, you're probably at rock bottom here, like you mentioned a minute ago. But what was going through your mind when you were going there, going, I'm going to bring X amount of cocaine, I'm going to swallow X amount of cocaine, and it's going to sit inside me, and if anything bursts, I'm in trouble? I
just didn't think about it. And I thought I was invincible for so many years. You know, again, I didn't think it's this thing about consequences, Dodge, you know, it's about not knowing that there are consequences and what those consequences could be, because if you do think about that, you're not going to do it. So
how much cocaine did they want you to swallow?
I think it was like, well, it's as much as you can, but they want you to get between like half a kilo and a kilo over. It depends like on the it depends on the size of the person. But when you're swallowing it, then they're definitely aiming between like, you know, around half a kilo, I think, for a girl. And if it's like bigger guys and stuff, they want them to try and get a kilo over.
I bet it was relief on it when you got there and they said it was not happening.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was your first smuggling. Do you remember your next one?
Yeah, next one was Holland. So I used to do a run from Harwich to Hook. It was on the boats. So that was quite different. And I think this is where I really started to like the levels and the depths of despair that I had just got even worse, because so I'd gone to Holland, brought some stuff over. It was all packed on me, so I had like a belt, you know, and I was like I had like a few people holding the bricks on like this, and then someone like walking around with like the gaffer tape, like with the electrical tape, just like electrical taping it all to me. So I had like bricks there, bricks there, bricks there, and bricks there.
All kilos?
Yeah. It was quite a bit. I mean, I was making somebody a lot of money.
Yeah, I bet.
And I was getting paid $4,000, which is, you know, nothing. But to me, that was a lot of, you know. I was being taken advantage of. But, you know, these people, they're professionals, and it's their job to work on you and to schmooze you and make you feel that you're, you know, looked after, and, you know, and that they care about you and that everything's all right. You know, it's all.
So were you getting the $4,000 up front, or when you landed back?
2 up front and then 2 when I got back.
Okay. And how long were you in Holland for? And who were you meeting? Where were you meeting? And how long were you there until they were wrapping you around with probably 10 keys of coke around you?
So I'd get to Hook, and then from Hook I'd go to Rotterdam, and then I was met in Rotterdam by, it was a bunch of Moroccans, so it was like a Moroccan crew that would like take care of me in Holland, and I was there like a couple of days, And they'd like take me out and buy me some clothes and take me out for food, and they'd just treat me nice. All right.
And at that time, were you like, I feel good about this? People are being nice to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it just felt good to be away, like to not be smoking crack and just to be away from, just to change the environment. And then, so I was fantasizing in my head this whole time. I was fantasizing that, it sounds so bad. It makes me laugh. Like when I think about the mentality that I had, I'm just like, are you absolutely off your head or what? I was fantasizing about being, an international drug smuggler, like as a career. Because I could see like people that I was working with and they had nice houses and nice things and, and I wanted that life, and I was like, okay, I could do this and I could fly across the world and, and have like nice things and money and like really considered it as a viable like career option, which is just insane.
It's bonkers. How much money, street value, do you reckon you had wrapped around you in cocaine?
Oh, God, street value, it's like £100 a gram, isn't it? So what's that? So I had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's like 6 kilos. So what's that? 100 times 1,000 for 1 kilo is 600,000.
And you were getting £4,000.
And I was getting £4,000. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And you're taking all the risk, apart from the financial risk. Wow.
Yeah.
What did you wear? Do you remember? Were you using your own passport? What were you wearing on the day? Did they put you in? Did they kit you out to say, "Cool, it looks okay"?
Yeah. They kitted me out. That's the
example.
They took me clothes shopping, sportswear. So it was. Right, this isn't like a lesson for anybody, by the way, on what to do if you're smuggling. But I'd have tracksuit bottoms on, like some Nikes or Adidas or something like that, and then like a baggy t-shirt. And then there's like a sports jacket on top of it, or just loose baggy sportswear.
So you just looked like a normal bod blending in, coming back on the boat.
Yeah.
And what was that feeling like when you were going through customs, that end, and also this end?
I wasn't really that fazed because, like, I had these professionals working on me saying that, it was okay and that they knew this route and the people were in on the route. And I'd been staying before I went over there the first time, I was staying and hanging around as part of the crew, like in London and Harwich. I was staying with people that had already been doing it, or so they said. Who knows? Yeah. So, they were talking me through it the whole time and telling me that they'd been doing it for years. And so it was just, I'd been prepped quite well, really. So I didn't expect it to go any other way apart from the way that it went.
Did you fly? Was customs easy? Did anyone give you a tug? Anyone clock you?
Yeah.
How nervous were you? You got stopped?
Yeah, I got stopped. Yeah, got stopped. And they opened my suitcase and I had like all this stuff strapped to me, and they'd asked like what I was doing, and I said that I'd just gone to Amsterdam. They'd asked me if I'd gone to the cafes, and I was like, yeah, of course I went to the cafes. Who goes to Amsterdam and doesn't go to the cafes? They'd asked me if I'd brought anything back with me, and I was like, of course not. Don't be silly. Opened my suitcase, looked through my suitcase, closed my suitcase, and let me go through.
You're joking me.
I know. And I was just as cool as a cucumber, like really just like, as cool as a cucumber. So then that just gave me the confidence then to do it again. But it was horrible when I came back, because like I come back, so I had this, fantasy that I was living, that, I was clean now and I was a professional drug smuggler now and got paid my money, and I was like, right, and I'm not going to take drugs anymore, not going to smoke crack anymore. And I got back to Gloucester, and the very first thing I did straight away was went and scored. Yeah. And that £2,000 was gone like within a couple of days.
Wow.
Yeah, I completely kidded myself that I'd be all right. And then I thought that I'd just like have one as a reward. I'd just be like, just as a reward.
Just a cheeky one. And doesn't happen.
Doesn't work like that. No, does not work like that.
And how old were you at this time?
20, I reckon.
Wow, a young pup.
Yeah.
A ballsy young pup.
Yeah.
And how many times were you going back and forward? Were there any other countries you were smuggling in from?
No, it was just, so I'd gone to Jamaica, like I said, I didn't do
Yeah.
it. And then I was just doing runs from Holland.
And do you remember how many runs you'd done in total in Holland?
A few, 3 maybe. Yeah.
And then what was the next step for you? Was there a bigger step to say, I can actually earn more money here? Or was it a dangly carrot someone gave you and said, there's another trip you want to go on?
Well, they were prepping me like for bigger trips. Holland was just kind of trial runs, really. I think maybe to build my confidence up, to see like how I handled it. So I knew that there were going to be, you know, that there was a bigger plan. And again, I carried on with this same disillusion in my mind, you know. Do you know what the definition of insanity is, Dodge?
Go on.
It's when you keep doing the same things over again, but you expect a different result.
Yeah.
And that's where that's exactly where I was,
Yeah.
you know. I was insane,
Yeah.
you know, doing these same things, but thinking that, you know, when I came back this time, you know, I wouldn't, you know, go and score, I wouldn't, you know, and I was just kept doing the same thing over and over again.
At the age of 20, though.
Yeah.
That is ballsy.
Yeah. Steel, mate.
Still.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And then what was that next step then?
So the next step then was Venezuela. And yeah, I was keen as well because I was getting bored with Holland as well.
Too easy.
Yeah, well, you know, I'd been there a couple of times.
Yeah.
I was getting a bit nervous about starting to think that I didn't want customs to clock me.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking, oh, you know, if they start to recognise me, then maybe that's a different. I just didn't feel comfortable.
That's one of Robert's, the Holland one, just there. Did you ever think about consequences? Like if you did get nicked, you did get clobbered, what you would say and how much sentence you would get?
Didn't even cross my mind.
Not one bit?
No.
Not even how much sentence I'm going to get for this?
Nothing.
And not even what the excuse would be?
No. It didn't even. It's because, like I said, these people that I was around, you know, that had been doing it, you know, and I was staying with them for a bit, and they just spent the whole time telling me that it'll be okay, and you do this and you do that, and we've been doing this for years, and yeah, it didn't even cross my mind for a second that there was going to be any other outcome apart from me getting through with the drugs.
So if you had got a tug and they would have seen £500,000 worth of cocaine wrapped around you,
yeah,
what would you have said?
I don't know. I'd have said it was personal.
Personally, that.
I don't know.
Play. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
And if they would have said, right, you're going to get 15, 20, you're going to get 20 plus years for this, or tell us who is involved, do you know what you'd have done?
I probably would have took the 20 years. Yeah, which is also like stupid because these people wouldn't, you know, didn't give a. Yeah. Well, I did, you know, because when I was in Venezuela, I got off, you know, to tell us, and then I was like, no. And then when I was there thinking, oh, I'll be all right, I'll get looked after, and you just get abandoned.
Tell us that journey about Venezuela.
So I got asked if I wanted to do Venezuela, and it all was going wrong from the very beginning. Like all the signs were there to like not do it. I had my daughter, you know, I was told to bring my daughter with me.
So you took your daughter to Venezuela?
Yeah, she was 3 years old.
On a cocaine drug smuggle?
Yeah, because I was told like, I was told that everyone was in on it. I was told that the Guardia in the airport were in on it. That all the customs were in on it, and that it was like part of the deal, that's how I would get away with it. I was so naive, I was so stupid. And some people will say like, oh, I don't care how naive and how stupid, I would never have, you know, taken my daughter. But, you know, you didn't live my life, so you didn't know where I was in my head. So it can be really easy for people to judge, and there's no excuse for it. You know, it's not okay, it's madness, but that's what happened, you know. That's where I was.
How old was she at the time?
3 years old.
She was 3 years old?
Yeah.
So you flew from where to where?
I flew from Amsterdam to Margarita. But like I missed the first flight. I had my boss with me. He'd come with me to Holland, and we missed the first. Well, he wasn't coming with me on the plane, but he was coming with me to the airport, and we missed the first flight. We got there like too late. So there's sign number one, isn't it? Yeah, like don't do this. Yeah. There's the first sign, ignored. Yeah. Then went back to the UK, rearranged the flight, was at the airport again, and like I had the strangest feeling come over me, Dodge. Like I know what it is now. It's called instinct.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
It's all about your gut.
Yeah. But I just didn't understand then how to interpret. You know, I didn't know what instinct was. I didn't understand how to interpret those feelings. But it was just like the universe was just absolutely like screaming at me, you know, don't do this. And I had my boss with me, and I said to him that I was like, I got the funniest, you know, feeling. And he actually said to me, like, don't do it. Like, he didn't try and push me forwards. He said, don't do it. But I wanted to impress him, you know, because I wanted the next job and, you know, I wanted to be this successful drug smuggler. So I pushed that feeling to one side, you know, because I wanted to be like, you know, and again, this balls of steel, you know, I didn't want him to think that I was a chicken and that I wouldn't get any more jobs. It's just, as I'm talking about it, like I just know it just sounds so ridiculous, but it just shows the
mindset.
The you know, I was young and naive, and it just shows the mindset.
So you missed that flight from the Dam to Margarita.
First one.
Okay, second one.
Got the second one.
Same day.
No, like maybe a week later, like maybe even less than a week later, I think. Yeah, got the next one, and it just wasn't right. Like from the beginning, none of it was right. I landed in Margarita, and there was no one there. Like I expected, you know, people to be waiting for me. I was going to get picked up, and I just like, there's no one here. What do I do? Where do I go? You know, I was quite lost and, you know, and scared really as well, you know, and confused. So I phoned up my boss, and he was confused that there was no one there, you know, to greet me, and then told me where to go. I can't remember if I got like a coach or if I got a taxi. I think I might have got a taxi. I think he told me.
So there was no mobile phone?
No.
There was no one to meet you there?
No,
you got your daughter?
Yeah.
Did you have a £1 note in your pocket to get into the hotel? Did you know where you were staying? Did you know who you meant to meet?
Nothing. Yeah. Nothing. I was just stood like in the middle of a Margarita airport, not having a clue. Like,
what were you told?
I was told that there was this guy going to be there waiting for me.
And do you know he's the guy's name? What did he look
Al,
like?
His name was Al. No, and I didn't know anything about him.
So you just flew out there,
got
off the plane, went through customs, stood there looking around for someone.
Yeah. And then like eventually like everybody that had gone on the plane like were gone. And there was like nobody there.
How much money did you have in your pocket?
Oh, flipping heck, I can't remember. I don't even know
Roughly.
I don't even know if I had any money in my pocket, Dodge. I don't know, maybe £100 or something, if that. Because I was told that I didn't need it. Yeah. Everything was going to be
sorted.
Yeah. I was staying in had all-inclusive hotel. So I didn't think that I needed any money.
What did you do that night when no one was around?
Well, I got, I phoned the guy. I think I like borrowed some money off someone, or I made a phone call, and then, I said he told me to get a taxi to the hotel. He gave me the address of the hotel anyway, or I think I might have got a coach. I can't remember. I got to the hotel. And then I was told, like he told me, when I'd spoken twice, he told me to just go to my room, to my chalet. And in my chalet there was a phone. So I got there and I got a phone call when I was in the chalet. I got a phone call from the Venezuelan contact telling me to stay there, not to go out anywhere, and that he'd come and visit me the next day. And I was pissed off, man. I was like quite put out, you know, because I thought as well, I've come to do a job for you, and this is how you treat me. So I wasn't happy. And then the next day, I thought, I'm not waiting here. You know, it's boiling hot. You know, there's a swimming pool just there. I've got a 3-year-old, and you want me to just sit in this chalet,
Yeah.
like twiddling my thumbs until you decide. Because I waited a bit and then I just no, forget this. Like he'll find me.
Yeah.
You know. So then I just went out with my daughter and like hung out by the pool and just like hang out in the hotel. And then I think he eventually turned up. Did he ring or he turned up that evening or something? And then took me out the next day. And again, just didn't treat me like how I expected to be treated, like I'd been treated in Holland, you know. So I think it was a total setup from the beginning, Dodge, you know. So this is why this guy was not invested in me, you know, because he knew that I was going to get nicked at the airport. Like I was a total decoy. Like I didn't know any of this at the time, but when I look back on it now, and you know, when I was in prison and I looked back on it all and everything, it was quite obvious, really.
How much cocaine? What was the deal? Were you meant to bring cocaine from Venezuela straight back to Amsterdam, then Amsterdam, then to London, or was it straight to London?
No, I was taking it back to Amsterdam, and then I wasn't sure what was going to happen from there.
And how much cocaine were you meant to take from Venezuela to Amsterdam? Do you know?
I think it was like 5 kilos.
Again, wrapped around you?
No, in a suitcase. Yeah, in a suitcase this time. And that was dodgy as well, because I got the suitcase, like the day before I was leaving, and I picked the suitcase up, and it stank of glue, like so bad, you know, it just fresh. They'd obviously freshly like glued it. I mean, it looked very professional, you know. So you opened it and you looked, and it wasn't just there, you know, in the suitcase. It was hidden in a secret compartment, but it just reeked of glue. And I mentioned it to the guys. I was like, they're going to smell this, you know. And he was like, no, it's all fine, you know. You're just being paranoid. And I just ignored all those warning signs, and I had it open like all night long. I was like, had it open, trying to like air it out, you know, trying to get rid of this.
So he come and met you at the chalet with the suitcase.
No, he took me out to get the suitcase.
He took you out to get the suitcase, brought you back to the chalet, and then you had to make your own way from that chalet to the airport the following day?
Yeah, there was a coach. There was a coach that went from the airport like to the from the hotel to the airport.
What was going through your head that night? With you obviously clued up at this point. You've got a gut instinct that doesn't feel right coming from the damn mission you're playing in Venezuela, not getting treated well. To get in some fellow who doesn't really care about you, to giving you a suitcase that stinks of glue, which all just been glued up, to work the coke inside.
And all the signs are there.
All the signs. What was going through your mind that evening before you were about to jump on a plane the next day?
I was debating about ditching it. Yeah, I did contemplate, like, not taking the suitcase, or like just like ditching the staff, and I didn't, you know, because I just thought that I was just being. Again, like I said, you know, there's this thing about consequences to actions, you know, and again, I'd been reassured that everything was going to be okay. So I just pushed all of those feelings, I just pushed them all away, you know, and just thought, you're being silly, Natalie, you're being paranoid, you know, just get through this, it'll all be fine. And just, you know, just chose to ignore all of those feelings and just trying to push it all to one side.
So were we looking at roughly about £250,000 worth of cocaine in this suitcase?
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah.
Probably.
How much were you getting paid for it?
$4,000.
$4,000 again?
Yeah.
Tell me the moment the next day when you woke up. What time was the flight the next day?
Oh, it was in the morning. Yeah. I think we had to leave the hotel at like 11 o'clock or something. And even on the coach, there was... Like, it was weird. There was this guy that had come on the coach and he'd lost his passport. And he was just like, he had the attention of everybody on the coach, you know, telling this story or whatever. And I just had like the strangest feeling that something wasn't right. Something was amiss with him, and that it was something to do with me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, you know, and to this day I never know, but I kind of like feel now that I was the decoy and he was the real one that was going through with it. Because I don't know, there was just something that was just like, just seemed, and that was what went through my head. And that's a random thing to go through your head. Like, why would that go through my head?
And this is the first time you've ever felt something like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It goes to show the power of the gut, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, when you get to the airport, what were your movements from the airport, going through customs with your little one?
So when I went through the bag exchange, gave my suitcase, it was like I was shitting a brick as I handed the suitcase over to the baggage thing, and I was thinking.
So you were checking in,
yeah,
handed your suitcase,
yeah, and it goes on that conveyor
that's
belt,
right,
doesn't it?
She stamped you. You and your daughter walked through.
Yeah, but I was thinking she's gonna stop me in a minute because of the smell.
Yeah.
I was like, she must be able to smell it. And I was like, no, it's fine, Natalie. They've told you, everyone's in on it. It doesn't matter if she can smell it.
Yeah.
Everybody's been paid off. So we got through and then got through to the departure lounge. And I'm sat down with my daughter and I see these two Guardia coming in, next to the table that I'm on.
The two old Bill, two police.
The National Guards.
Guards, okay, yeah.
So on the next table to where I am, there's a family sat there, like a husband and wife, and I think they got a kid or maybe two kids. And I watched these National Guards coming in, and they looked like they were on a mission, And they went up to the table, next to me, and obviously asked to see their passports. It was all in Spanish, and I could see the family pulling out the passports, and I just knew that it was me they were looking for. I knew that was not the people and that it was me. So they showed them the passports and then they come over to my table and asked me to show them. They were like, pasaporte. So I showed them my passport and then they wanted me to go with them. And my stomach's really going now. But I'm just saying to myself, it's all right, it's all part of the plan. Because I was told, I was told that the Guardia are in on it, don't worry, they might take you to one side, so I just, even though it felt wrong, I was just kind of saying to myself, it's okay, it's all part of the plan, don't panic. And by that point, you're kind of on a roller coaster anyway, once those wheels are in motion, there's kind of no stopping it, so you're just kind of forced along with this kind of flow, that maybe you don't even want to go along with, but it's all, you're just, the wheels are in motion, it's already happening. So then they took me into this room and my suitcase was on a table. There was a light, literally this light bulb, and then it's just such a cold room, with a table in the middle of this room and my suitcase on the middle of on the table. And I'm thinking, I don't know if that's supposed to be there. And then I was like, it's all part of the plan, Natalie. It's fine. I think, when you're a kid and maybe you've done something wrong and you think if you close your eyes and wish you're hard enough, you'll wake. That's that, and you learn, don't you? As you grow older, you you learn that that's not how things work. But when you're a kid, that's what you try doing, don't you? If I go really hard, I'll wake up and it'll be the morning again, and I won't have done that, and that's where I was at, with this kind of mentality, just this blind, belief or hope that everything was going to be all right. And then, they pulled a knife out. And when they pulled a knife out, I was like, yeah, this definitely isn't supposed, I just couldn't kid myself any longer, that this is all right and this is all part of the plan. I was like, no, this is not part of the plan. This is not what's supposed to be happening.
Wow. And the knife? Plunged
it in the suitcase. And the Guardia, he was like, haha, coca, he was like, he's struck gold, and I think he even did a little thing on his tongue, and he was overjoyed. That was it for them. For me, I just but you know what? I still thought that I'd get on my plane.
Yeah.
I was just again thinking, right, okay, this has gone horribly wrong. I hope they hurry up and deal with this. So that I was watching the time, thinking about what time the plane was supposed to go, and I was just thinking that I thought I'd just get told off, a little slap on the wrist or whatever, get processed really quickly, and that I'd be on the on the plane still.
And then what happened there? Because normally they get all really excited and take photos all around it, a thumbs up. Where were you taken? What was happening with you? What happened with your daughter?
Yeah, so they let me speak. So they used a woman from the airline to come in and translate, because this was all in Spanish. And she told me instantly, she was like, "You're going to go to jail for 10 years." And like straight away, as soon as she came in, and they was like, she was translating. Oh, and they asked me, they said, "Was there somebody waiting?" You know, to tell them, was there somebody waiting at the other end for me? And you know, I was like, no, there's nobody waiting. I can't really remember. I can't really remember the questions that they asked. Dodge. It's all a bit, you know, like I think I was just in a state of shock. And then they put me on the phone to my embassy. Well, I spoke to the consulate, and he told me the same thing as the woman from the airline. He was like, "Yeah, you're fucked. You'll go to jail for 10 years. This is what's going to happen. You know, you're going to get taken to the police station. It's horrendous in the police station. You know, the circumstances, the conditions, horrendous. You're going to spend, I don't know, however long there." He said, "And then you'll get taken to the prison. The prison is horrendous as well." He said, "And you'll get sentenced to 10 years, and there's nothing we can do about it. There's no extradition, and, you know, there's girls there that have been there 5 years already." And I don't know, I think I still just thought that everyone was just trying to frighten me.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't kind of comprehend really the seriousness of the situation. It was too much you can't, even if someone's telling you all of that anyway, it's just too much for the brain to process, really.
And then where was your daughter at this time?
She was still with me.
She was in your arms?
Yeah.
What was the point where they had to take your daughter off you?
It was the next day. So we stayed that night. Instead of taking me to the police station, because I had my daughter, they took me to the Guardia station that was next door to the airport. So we spent the night there. And I was just trying to keep her calm the whole time, you know, and telling her that it was okay and that this was supposed to be happen, and that there were some stones in my suitcase that weren't supposed to be in there, and, you know, just trying to not freak her out, really. And she just went along with everything I've told her, of course, because she was 3 years old. She's going to believe, you know, and I'm not freaking out in front of her or anything. Yeah. So then we stayed the night in the Guardia station next to the prison. And then the next day, they took me it's almost like on tour of the island, like taking me to all these different places. There was one place where I had to go, and they took like samples, like drug sample, like swabs and stuff of my fingers. And then they took me somewhere else where they had the suitcase again, and they'd like laid the suitcase out. They'd taken all the bricks out of it, and they were taking loads of photos of it. And then they took me, and I was really ill as well, I remember, because I'd been drinking the water, and I was just like so cramped up. I was like physically just in so much pain and so much agony. And then they took me to the courts, and then when I was in the courts, that's where they took Nikita off me. Like, somebody came in and said that Nikita was going to be taken off me there. I was going to go to a police station, and that Nikita was going to be put in an orphanage whilst arrangements were made with the British Embassy for her to go back to the UK.
My God.
Yeah.
My God,
yeah.
Natalie.
Yeah.
Wow. Just listen to this. Can you remember that moment when they actually took Nikita out of your hands?
Yeah, I think, I had like a mixture of feelings, because I was kind of relieved that she wasn't going to be part of this anymore, you know, like, and it's just the worst feeling in the world to know how much you've failed as a mother. You know, like you can't fail really much more than that. So to kind of acknowledge that and accept that and realize, you know, how stupid and how naive and, you know, the risks that, you know, not that I put myself out, but that what I've done to my daughter, you know, there's no worse pain in the world, really.
And even worse is not knowing where she's going.
Yeah.
It's like, hold on a minute, I'm in Venezuela, I don't speak the language.
Yeah.
Where's Nikita going? She's been taken out my arms.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know where she's going?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, they said she was going to, I thought it was going to be like a foster home of like English-speaking people, and that's just not what happened, like, at all. Because I saw her, like, before they flew her back, I got reunited with her for a little bit. I'd been in the police station for months. Or no, was it months? Might have been, actually, I think it was a little bit less than that. And arrangements had been made for Nikita to go back to the UK. And I got taken to court from the police station. I didn't know it was to see Nikita, and I got there. And the judge, like, I didn't go in the cells or anything. I was put in a office room. And a judge came and told me that Nikita was going to be going the next day, that I wasn't going to see her for 10 years, and that the judge had ordered for me to go to the courts that day and ordered for Nikita to be brought there so that I could see my daughter, because it was going to be like the last time that I was going to see her for 10 years.
Were you allowed to hold her?
Yeah. We
How long?
We got maybe like an hour together, I think. Yeah, it was heartbreaking. It just broke me. Like, as soon as she walked through the door, it just completely broke me, because her face, you know, she was terrified. She didn't have a clue she'd been in this orphanage, and she couldn't, obviously she couldn't speak Spanish, and nobody there could speak English. And so she was telling me that how, you know, she'd been like having accidents, like wetting herself and stuff like that, because she'd been telling people that she needed the toilet and nobody understood what she was saying. So, like, just hearing her say these things, it just, like, just completely. And then I've got to try and be strong, you know, while she's saying that. I can't just suddenly, like, burst into tears and start crying or whatever, because that's not just going to make it 10 times worse for her. So I just had to, like, try and, like, hold all this pain in and you know, just reassure her that everything was going to be all right now.
How do you know she was going back to the right people in the UK?
Oh, because she was going with a friend of mine. I think I'd been able to speak to my friend, or I'd asked the embassy to contact my friend, actually.
Yeah, okay.
And said, like, you know, please maybe ask my friend if she can look after her. So the embassy told me that they'd spoken to my friend Eve, and that it had all been arranged, and that Eve was going to look after her, which was just like a massive relief, you know. It's like, okay, well, at least that's...
Yeah, she's safe.
Yeah.
So then what for you? What was the next movements for you? Obviously, you're in an office space at the moment, it seems like. When was the point where you had to go to court and said, right, you have now officially got 10 years?
So I got back to the police station then, and I can't remember. Like, I think I was in the police station for about 3 months.
Did you ever think about escaping? Or was it impossible?
In the police station, it was impossible.
Yeah, okay.
Like, there's just... it's impossible. And it was so grim in there. It was like, you've got this small room, there's like 20 women in there, like just like one light bulb. It's so hot, you know. There's like, they've got a little hole in the corner of the room. There's like this little hole, and there's a bucket, and then you piss in the bucket and you pour the bucket, and there's no curtain or anything like that. And if you need a poo, then you put a bin, then you put like a carrier bag in the bucket and do in a room, you know, with no partition or anything, with all these women. It's grim, you know. The walls are wet from sweat, and it's dripping off the ceiling, and it's disgusting.
When were you taken to the prison? Was there a point you're going, right, you've now been sentenced, you're now going into the prison?
No, I didn't I think I went to the prison. I got to prison first before I got sentenced. So I'd been in the police station for a while, like 3 months. And then I got transferred to the prison till whilst I was waiting to be sentenced. But like I knew I was going to, by this point, you know, it had been made really clear to me that I was going to get sentenced. Like I knew what the process was going to be. I had a consulate and he'd come and see me a couple of times and I'd spoken to the embassy on the phone and, you know, and it was just repeated to me over and over and over again. This is what's going to happen. You know, you'll go to the prison, you'll go to court, you'll get sentenced to 10 years and there's nothing we can do.
And what's it like? What's it in Venezuela? If you get 10, you'll do 5, the same as in England?
No,
or you do 10, you've got to do 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
10 years is 10 years over there.
What was the name of the prison and what was that feeling like? What was the moment like? Can you explain to me what it was like when you walked into that prison?
Yeah. So it's San Antonio. It's San Antonio prison in Margarita. It was kind of a relief to get there because I'd been told what it was like the consulate had told me what it was like, and prisoners in the police station, like Spanish prisoners there, had told me what it was like, and just anything sounded better than where I was. You know, I was told that it was all very open plan, that it was mixed prison, there was men and women there.
It was a mixed prison.
It was a mixed prison, yeah. Yeah, it was men and women all integrating with each other. I remember there was a girl in the police station, Spanish girl, and she used to say to me, "Yo, San Antonio, yo, fucky, mucho fucky." And I thought, this can't be right. And the consulate told me as well that there was men there as mixed prison. But I thought there'd be some kind of divide, you know.
Yeah.
But no, there's like just at night time was the only time that you were separated. Yeah, it was all integrated and mixed together.
So explain to me the moment when you got out, cuffed up, walking into that prison for the first time. A young 20-odd-year-old girl, 21 from Gloucester in England, going into a Venezuelan prison, not speaking the language, not having a clue what's going on.
Well, I got there, and as we go in, there's all these men patrolling the roof, and I was shocked at the state of them. You know, they're like they just look rough. You know, like bare-chested. You know, with their guns, they've got big shotguns, and they're like patrolling the roof. And I was surprised that I just didn't understand why they didn't have to wear uniform. I thought, God, that's strange. Maybe it's because it's too hot or whatever. And then I found out afterwards that they weren't guards, they were prisoners.
Prisoners with shotguns?
With shotguns, patrolling the roof of the prison. Yeah, because the prison was divided. So you had the women's bit, and then you had 2 separate men's side, because they're gangs, you know, there's gang warfare that's coming in from the streets. So you can't have all of these men like interacting with each other, because they'll just kill each other because of, you know, beef that they've got with each other from the street. So they're divided, but even though they're divided, they're still trying to kill each other. So you have like the one side like patrolling like the roof to make sure that none of the guys on the other side are like trying to get over to their side. And the guys on the other side have built bunkers as well, like these little bunkers and these little stone huts like that with these little slits through like that. And they used to man those to make sure that the guys from that side weren't going over like to kill them. But when it kicked off, like it would be crazy. Like it was like a war zone in there sometimes. Like the Guardia wouldn't even come in sometimes, like where there was just so much shooting.
So it was the Guardia, the police, that just letting them get on with whatever they get on with. Look after the prisons. If it kicks off, we're then going to get involved.
You can do anything you want in there except get out. It's like a village. It's a self-sufficient village, like contained within the perimeter of the walls. There's like restaurants there.
Restaurants or just someone cooking a bit of rice?
No, restaurants. They've built restaurants. Like, so the men, like the men, they've got like a gang leader. Now, if he's a gang leader, you know, because they're all selling drugs in there. So
everything, you can get every drug in there.
Crack is usually coke and crack is crack, really. Yeah. I think it was called bazooka. It's called over there because it's like just the process before it's like refined as crack. So, and then the gang leader, you know, if he wants to stay as gang leader and not have like mutiny amongst the ranks and get killed in his sleep or killed by his own people, then his part of his role is to provide for the prisoners. So he'll, like with the drugs that are being sold, he invests that money into the prison.
Right.
So there's workshops with like great big saws, you know, with these great big discs with the jagged claws on them. And if there's a piece of machinery that breaks down, that's down to him, you know, really to make sure there's a budget there. Yeah, because the director of the prison, he spends all the money.
Yeah.
You know, any money that comes in for the prison, you know, the director spends it on his new car or, you know.
So the prisoners are dealing crack cocaine to generate more money so they can have better facilities for themselves.
Yeah.
That is bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah. It's really like quite self-sufficient,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, very self-sufficient.
And what was going through your mind actually? Like you go back to that woman a minute ago, fucky, da 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 da. What were you thinking? Were you thinking the worst thing could happen here, or were you just not caring?
When she used to say that to me before I got there, I thought that they were I thought they were winding me up.
Okay.
You know, I thought they were just kind of taking the mickey out of me.
Yeah.
You know, I thought they were thinking, oh, look, you know, as the gullible English girl, you know, we'll wind her up and tell her this and tell her that. So when I got there and saw that, like, wow, this is real, it was hard to comprehend, really, Dodge. You know, it was just... But when you're thrown in the middle of something, you know, you have, you know, it is what it is, you know, and you're just like, I think the first night I woke up in the morning, I was just like, this can't be real, but it is real, you know. So as time goes on, you just adjust to it, you know, and then it just becomes your new normal. It just becomes your reality.
Did you get bullied in there?
Not there. And there was a couple of incidents where some girls like tried it on, but then I was at a point where I didn't really value my life, you know. So I fought back and did all right. So, but I think if I'd have had value on my life, then, because they were trying to rob me.
Yeah.
So I think if I'd have had value on my life, I kind of would have been like, you know, take the stuff. Yeah. But I think because I just wanted to be dead, you know, and you got a knife to your throat, and it's like, well, do you know what? Then do me a favour, come on. And then so they just said that I was the crazy gringa, and then like left me alone because they thought I was nuts. But I wasn't nuts. I just, like I said, you know, a person that doesn't want to live is a very dangerous person.
Very dangerous.
Somebody that wants to die is a dangerous person because they don't care about anything.
And was that your mindset?
That was totally where I was.
So you bring it on.
Yeah. Wanted them, you know. I wanted them to stab me and kill me.
Did you see a lot of violence in there?
Yeah. I saw loads. Yeah, there was a war that went on for 3 days, and with the guys, and the Guardia wouldn't come in because it was just so dangerous, and the men, like, they'd made a big hole, like, in part of the wall next to our bit, and the guys were getting shot, and they were bringing the dead bodies through, and then our bit was, like, right by the kind of courtyard to the reception, with, like, where the, the, like, hospital kind of wing was, but the hospital wing was full. It wasn't being manned, you know, because all the prison guards had locked themselves in behind, you know, closed doors, and the National Guards, who were like based on the perimeter, just weren't coming in, you know, because they're just not getting paid enough, and they haven't got enough artillery themselves, you know, compared to 700 men that are shooting at each other and killing each other. So then these, like, the bodies just piled up because the ambulance wouldn't come in either. Like, so you've got these dead bodies, and because everyone's shooting at each other, 3 days it went on for, non-stop. So that ambulance people couldn't come in either. So you just got these, like, pile of dead bodies just...
Did they leave, the gangs fighting with each other, did they leave the women alone?
Yeah.
Was it like, women, go to the side, we're cracking on with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. There was, like, it was quite... They're quite protective of the women.
Okay.
Like, because everyone always says, oh, well, there must have been loads of rape and things going on. Like, not at all.
Okay.
Like, the men were really, you know, protective. And it was just, even if a man had even thought of doing something like that, he'd get killed. Yeah, okay. You know, if it came out that somebody had,
so there was respect in there?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was the whole Was the whole prison in there built on respect?
Yeah, there was a hierarchy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. There was a hierarchy, and there was like the commander and the lieutenant
Yeah.
and the soldiers and the foot soldiers.
Yeah, okay.
And,
How many people in total were in the prison, male and female?
Probably about 800.
And the prison size meant to be for 800 or for less?
Oh, probably, definitely not. No.
Okay.
No. Definitely not. Everyone's like on top of each other.
And where were you sleeping? You sleeping in a room with a load of other girls? What?
Yeah. It's just
A
room.
bed? Was it just a floor?
I started off on the floor because you're not provided with any furniture or anything. So you have to work your way up the ranks, really, or have the money to buy, beds and mattresses, or, wait for someone to go and donate you one, or get a boyfriend and, get your boyfriend to buy you one.
Yeah. Did you get a boyfriend in prison?
Yeah.
After how long of being in there?
So when I first got there, I'm kind of like, there was an English guy, but I don't know, I just wasn't really into it. But it was funny. I used to get love letters and food sent to me all the time. They try and woo you with food over there, you see, because you don't get food from the prison. There's no meals a day.
There's no canteen, there's no nothing.
No, there's no like meals, like cooked meals provided by the prison. So, like I said, you've got to really like fend for yourself, or, or buy food, or so. I'd get these love letters like delivered to me at the gate from these guys that I didn't even know who they were, like just declaring, their undying love for me, with a burger and chips, or something. trying to root, or a beef steak or something,
Other prisoners?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But then towards the end, so I moved from there, and I moved to a prison that was near the Colombian border. And when I was there, I got into a relationship with a prison guard.
Did you?
Yeah, we fell in love with each other.
Proper love?
Yeah, proper love.
Was there?
Yeah, real love.
How long was you in that prison for till you met the prison guard and fall in love?
So I'd been in there, let me think, because I was there so I'd probably been there about 9 months, I think.
And what year are we talking roughly here?
2003. So
you were in there for 9 months.
Yeah.
How'd you meet the guard to fall in love?
He was new. He'd been sent there. Him and his friend had been sent there. They'd been working in another prison, and they'd been caught bringing weed in to the other prison. Yeah. So as like punishment, they got sent to work in this prison. Which was like miles away from like their home and stuff like that. So he just like called my attention a little bit. I thought he was attractive.
Yeah.
So, and he'd just come like, we'd go down and do aerobics. Again, this is another mixed prison, men and women. So we'd go down and do class, or go and do aerobics, or, he'd be just like walking around or whatever, and so I don't know, we just started making eye contact and like flirting a little bit. And
could he speak English?
No,
okay,
no, but I can speak Spanish by this point. Because I've been in jail like 2 years now. 2.5 years, so my Spanish is getting there. And I had a mobile phone, so I gave him my phone number, and then he just started ringing me like every night and texting me all the time. And
that was quite nice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
After all that period in there,
yeah.
Someone showing you a bit of attention and love.
Yeah. It was a bit like, I wasn't sure at first if it was just something for him to pass the time. Yeah. Because he would work there like 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. Yeah. So at first I thought, okay, is this, am I just like a toy for him to play with whilst he's here to make, the 2 weeks here like easier for him?
When you were in that prison, again, the second prison nicer than the first one?
Well, there was another prison in between that. So that was the third prison. There was another prison in between that, but I wasn't in it for very long, called Enough in Caracas, which was just a girls' prison, which was brilliant. But it was like, well, as prisons go.
Yeah,
you know?
brilliant.
Yeah, it wasn't like a 5-star hotel or anything.
Yeah.
You know, compared to what I'd come from, you know.
How long were you in the girls' prison for?
I don't know, 6 months.
Did that feel safer in there?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. And there was a lot of structure there as well. There were workshops, you could earn money, there was canteen, there were tailleurs, you know, there was education.
What's tailleurs?
Tailleurs, workshops.
Okay.
You know, like sewing workshops, and they made the flags there for Venezuela. That's where the flags.
Is that right?
That's where the flags were made. Yeah. And I remember. Oh God, we used to have to sing the Venezuelan national anthem, and I hated it. Like every day, we'd have to go, we'd have to line up, and we'd have to like put our hand on our hearts and sing this. And like one of the sentences in there, something was like "Glory be to the country," and I was like, "Are you kidding me with this?" You know. But if you didn't sing it, you know, you got into trouble.
Was there any point in prison where the guards, the real guards that are getting paid, have had to come in and get everyone on the floor or get everyone down or really take control?
Yeah, like so in after that war, you know, I said about that
3-day war, in your first prison.
After that 3-day war, like it's the army, like they're pissed off.
So the army come in.
Yeah, the National Guards.
Right, okay.
Yeah, they were like pissed off because it kind of like it's kind of highlighted that they haven't really got any control, and they don't appreciate that like at all. So like when the war was like over, they came in and they got all the men, and there was like this massive courtyard, like tarmacked courtyard, and they made all the guys, they made them all lie down, you know, and it's boiling hot over there.
What sort of temperatures are you talking?
Oh, you know, you're
45s, 50s.
Yeah, you're talking, you know, it's like it's right on the
100 degrees on the equator.
Really close to the equator, you know, and they'd made them like lie down, and the guards, they've got these big swords as well, but they're not pointed, you know, they're
like batons.
Yeah, they're rounded, you know, and so they've got the men, and they've just got them lying down from like 9 o'clock in the morning till like 8 o'clock in the evening.
You're joking,
and they walk around, you know, and they've got these batons, and you know, when anyone's trying to move, you know, the guys, it's just like beating them with the batons, just to like assert their like authority, you know. And again, they did it all the time, you know, when like male prisoners like misbehaved themselves, they'd like line them up against the wall, you know, and get them to drop their shorts, and you know, like beat them on their bums and stuff with these swords.
So in your third prison here, you fall in love. What was his name?
Jose,
local lad.
yeah.
Jose. So you fall in love with him. Was there any point in your mind in that third prison going, I've done 3 years now roughly, you're thinking, I need to escape?
Yeah, I totally started considering it, like definitely, especially when I found out how close it was to the Colombian border.
Right.
You know, because, you know...
How close was it?
3-4 hours away.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, everybody that's in prison fantasizes about escaping Dodge, you know, anybody, you know, it goes through it, but, you know, it's whether you can or can't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally started to, like, consider it. And I had a business there. I'd set up a shop of my own and everything. And there were some girls like malandras that had been transferred in, which is like troublemakers, and they were going around and they were robbing people. One of them got killed. She got shot in the back of the head by another prisoner, like in the female courtyard. And you know, Steph was kicking off within the women's bit, which is quite rare, you know, the violence and the guns and whatever, you know, it's usually quite male orientated. It's not often it's the first time ever that apparently a girl had been killed and shot. And I knew that things were getting dangerous because I had this shop, you know, and I'm like, and I was being told that they were going to come for me, you know, they were going to rob, you know, try and like rob the shop. And I did value my life at this point, you know. So I applied for my day releases. I was like, just try and I had bars put on my shop, like metal bars welded, because I knew what they were going to do. I was like, they're going to come and they're just going to jump over. You know, I can be locked in, but they're just going to jump through the hatch. Yeah. So I had the guys come and like weld these metal bars on like rejas so that they couldn't get through. And then I applied for my day releases. And I'm with Jose while this is going on. And I'm seeing him, you know, I'm going out, I'm getting my day releases, you know, he's getting as much time working outside of the prison, getting hospital, you know, shifts to like where he's supposed to be guarding people at the hospital. Yeah. He's totally not. He's gone there, you know, giving them some money, some cigarettes, some food or whatever. And then we've gone out for the day or, you know, spent the weekend out or... So, you know, it just came like a real possibility, you know. I was thinking, because I was going out, you know, so I thought, you know, maybe it could really happen. So I started to plan a route. And I was thinking about my daughter as well the whole time, you know. I was thinking, you know, I want to see my daughter, you know, I've got my daughter. Because if I hadn't have had my daughter, I'd have just stayed there and done my sentence.
So you would have stayed there?
I would have stayed there. Yeah. I would have stayed there with Jose. Yeah. But I just like thought, how dare I, you know, you know, and how dare I be happy, and how my duty is to go back and to see my daughter, and if there's a possibility to do it without having to wait another 5 years, then let's do it. So we started to plan this route, and I was told that I was going to lose my day release because I was proper taking the piss. Yeah. Like I was out for weeks at a time. You're supposed to go out in the morning and come back in the evening. And I was going out and coming back 2 weeks later with like doctor's notes. Jose was friends with the director of the prison. So we took the director out. It was carnival. It was carnival. And we met the director. Like I went out in the morning. We met the director for carnival, like just got him absolutely, you know, completely drunk. Yeah. And then it was time for me to like catch my bus back to go back. And Jose said to him, like, oh, can't you phone the prison up and like give Natalie permission to stay out? Because we got him like right lashed up. And I think we had to like buy him a bottle of brandy or something. So then he phoned up the prison and like gave me permission to like stay out for like 3, 4, 5 days. So I was doing this all the time, you know, and and I was supposed to be working, you know, I was supposed to be working at this hairdresser. I don't think I'd even stepped foot in the hairdressers, you know. And then like people got wind of it and I was paying the judges off. Like I kept paying them off so that I could, you know, so they wouldn't take my benefit off me. But then it got to the point where you know, it was like you can't. Yeah. There's only so far you can push it to, and it got to the point where it was like, and we got a phone call. I think we were out, and I got a phone call saying they're gonna take your benefit off you.
Take your day release away.
Yeah, you're going to take it away.
What was the point when you said, right, now I've got to make the move?
That was it then.
Do you remember the date?
I don't remember the exact date, but it was July, I think. Okay. July 2005. Yeah.
And this was your time to get away now?
Yeah, it was like, right, you've got to... We were planning it, but we hadn't quite finished like sorting everything out. You know, really I was going to do it like in another 2 weeks, but it was like, nah, you got to do it now, because in 2 weeks you're not going to have day release, you know. And
so basically you kept everyone buttered up, bunging everyone, kept them all inside. They're giving you the tug now to say, hold on, mate, we're going to get you back in because you're taking the mickey. Yeah. And then you went, right, I'm off. Yeah. Tell me, were you thinking, just get me over the border and I'm away?
Yeah, totally. So,
do you have to get a passport to go over the border?
Yeah.
From Venezuela?
Yeah. Well, I smuggled myself across the border, So I got into Colombia like completely illegally, but I got a passport. I'd already got a passport because I'd been preparing, because I need a passport to get out of South America and back to Europe. So I got the passport off my British embassy.
So the British embassy gave you a passport to get out of the country?
Well,
or to help you get out of the country with a kind of a wink?
They didn't, I didn't tell them that I was going to use it to get out. I just said that I was, I needed ID to get a job, So I'm imagining that they probably suspected, because I suppose what would they do if they had a passport and they were out,
So what did you do? Jump in a coach, jump in a car, cab? What did you do to get to the border?
Dodge, man, it went so badly wrong. Like everything was planned. We had this route planned because they have...
Did you have the gut feeling this time or not?
No.
Or you didn't care?
No.
Bang,
I didn't care, and it was just like, but the elements were not on our side. So like we had it all planned out. I was going to leave in the morning. Jose was going to leave, a little bit afterwards, and then we were going to meet at a Ejido bus station, which is like the kind of last stop before you cross the border. But they've got checks everywhere in Venezuela, like roadblocks, all the time, and you get stopped and you have to show your ID or whatever. Now, part of my conditions were that I'm not allowed out of Merida area, so I can't really go through any of these roadblocks, and it's a big risk, because you've got the National Guardia, like 1 minute they're based in the prison for 3 months, then they're based at the airport for 3 months, then they're based on the block, so there's a very high chance that I'd be recognised, like, hang on a minute, you're supposed to be there, not here. So we had this route planned where we had like Guardia that we knew were working on the stops, and that they were paid off, and that we could get through like most of them. So the day came and there'd been torrential rain that night, and there'd been landslides and rivers that had burst their banks, and like my whole route was completely blocked. Like there was no turning back, because I was having my benefit taken off me the next day. It was like now or never. If I go back to the prison, like tomorrow the paperwork comes back and I don't get out. So, you just got to go for it. But it's also, if I get recognised, probably going to get shot or beaten, but it was just like, you just got to just keep going forward. So I had like this one route, and the bus couldn't get through because there'd been landslides in the mountains, so the bus couldn't get through that way. So then I got a taxi. So just went completely off, off course and off route. So I got a taxi, and the taxi went a different way, got so far, and then the taxi couldn't get through, again, because like, I don't know, a road slide or a landslide, or the river had burst its bank or whatever. The taxi couldn't get through. So then I've just got like one option left now, which is another bus that was going a different way. So I got on this other bus, and then we get to like this kind of riverbank, and it's it's burst, and most people are being turned away. Like the Guardia, there's just Guardia everywhere as well. It's like this is a national crisis. It's just an absolute disaster. So there's just Guardia everywhere, and I'm just on this bus like this, just like trying to hide, as we're going past them, or looking in my bag or something. And then we get to this other bit, and the river's burst its bank, and some vehicles are getting through, but most vehicles are being turned around, and there's like the Guardia, like, waving them through or turning them around, and you can see the 4x4s like getting through, and I'm watching and I'm looking, and I can see the kind of path that the 4x4 is taken to like meander through this river and then get to the other side of it. And then all the little cars are like being turned around and told to go back. And I can see like the bus driver contemplating, and I can see that he's just not keen at all. I went and begged him. Like I went up to the bus driver, and I was like, please, like, look, you can do this. Like, look how big your wheels are. They're only a little bit smaller than the than the 4x4s, and look, and the 4x4s going that way. And I was like almost in tears, you know, because this was just like, this was my last chance,
life
you know.
or death.
Yeah, this was literally my last chance. So I was like pleading with him. And then like everyone else on the bus then kind of like joined in, you know, like, yeah, go on, you know, you can do it. So I think like that energy that was generated, you know, and the peer pressure, you know, like motivated him to have a go. And he was going through, and the water was coming through, but like the water was coming like, then I was like, keep going, you know, you can do it. Thinking, oh God, and the water was coming in like through the stairs and everything. But he got through to the other side. And when he got through, just everybody was just like cheering and clapping, and you know, my heart was just, you know, like I felt like it was gonna like come out of my chest, and I was just like so happy. But then I was like worried about Jose, because I thought, right, like, because we were supposed to meet hours ago, you know, and I thought, I wonder how he's got there. And if he'd have waited or whatever. So we got to the bus station, and he was there. Like, he just waited. And his friend saw me first, because his colleague of his, who was also a prison guard, was coming with us, like to only as far as Colombia, just to like
keep an eye.
Yeah, just to keep us company. And so he was coming with us. So I bumped into him first, and then he sent me to Jose. And then I remember saying to Jose, like, you know, he'd got there fine. Like, I'd come up against all these obstacles, and he was like, yeah, I just got the best. I'm like, okay. How did you do that? And I had to go for this. And I asked him, like, how long he would have waited. And I remember him saying that he just would have waited forever. Said he would have just stayed there, like, you know, until I got there. So then we got a taxi from Ejido to Cucuta, which is the first village in Colombia on the other side of the border, with a couple of Mexicans. We just thought it would be safety in numbers.
Yeah.
We thought it would be safety in numbers.
So how did you actually get through the border?
Just in the back seat of the taxi.
There was no old Bill there, check in. But they were just like, come through, you're fine.
So the taxi driver told, like, we said, like, the Mexicans said that they were going shopping, like, because they're on the other side of the border, Colombia. It's quite well known that it was a lot cheaper than Venezuela. So a lot of people would do like, you know, just a run for the day and whatever. So, you know, everyone just told the taxi driver that we were just doing like a run there for the day. And then I just like pretended to be asleep, you know, as if that was going to work, you know, just
close
like I close my
eyes.
eyes, and then like and my cloak of invisibility is going to like come on or something. So then when we got to the border, like, I kind of remember hearing like the border control person like asking for the passports, and the taxi driver saying like, oh look, they're just going shopping, and she can't even speak Spanish, this one. So and the guy was just like, just let us through. And it was just like everything was in my favor, like you know, the gods were shining and their love on me.
And
that day.
did you know once you're in that border in Colombia they can't come and get you?
I knew I was safe.
So when you saw the signs, welcome to Colombia, what was going through your head then?
Yeah, so there was like me, Jose, my friend John Harzo, and these Mexicans in the car. Like, and the Mexicans didn't know. Like, it was, you know, and the taxi driver like didn't know. And I was like, is this it? It was almost like I didn't believe it. You know, it's like, is it okay now? Like, we're safe now. And it was like, and we just kind of like, kept looking at each other like, in disbelief, really. It was like, I was like, have I really just done this? Have I really just escaped prison and like smuggled myself across the Colombian border? And like, is this really like what is going on in my life like right now? You know, it's just because you're just so tense up to that point, you know, and just so focused, you know, and like, right, well, we need to sort this out, we need to do this, we need to do that. Then when you do it, like, the reality of what you've just done is just like, holy shit, like, I've just done that, you know.
So what was the movements there? Were you thinking, right, get me away from the border, get me deep into Colombia, or were you thinking, get me to an airport and get me flying into Spain or back into England?
That was totally the plan, was to get to Bogota, and then from Bogota we were flying to Spain.
Why Spain and not London?
Because I didn't know what my legal status
Just
was
in
going to.
case.
Yeah, so I thought I was.
How did you know it was you were okay in Spain?
Because I'm not there. Because these people, they don't speak to each other.
Yeah.
Dodge, they don't communicate with each other. So I just wasn't sure. I thought if I went back to the UK, I thought there'd be issues, obviously.
Right, okay.
But in Spain, I'm not. Nobody knows who I am in Spain.
Yeah.
No, at all.
Yeah.
So I went to Bogota, and we got arrested in the airport because they suspected us of drug smuggling.
You're joking.
No, I know. How ironic, huh? I know.
Mate, the story goes on.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm with Jose, who's, the prison guard.
Yeah.
And
so how many days after you come through the border, how many days after were you at the airport to next day? And who paid for the flight? Jose?
No, I did. Well,
you saved up enough money.
Yeah, well, we both put our funds together.
And both of you booked a flight to Spain, flying into where? Malaga or?
No, Madrid.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we went to. We didn't book the flight until we were in Colombia.
Yeah.
So we stayed in Cucuta the night, and then it's rough there.
Yeah.
It's really rough there. And then we got the coach to Bogota.
And if you're saying it's rough,
after
coming out of those prisons,
I
do believe you.
Yeah. And then we went to Bogota and we booked. We went to travel agents and booked the tickets, and then I think we stayed a night in Bogota, and then we went to the airport the next day. We got arrested by immigration because we didn't have the entry stamp on our passports. So they wanted to know, how on earth, we'd got into...
How are you in Colombia?
Yeah, how we'd got into Colombia and what we were doing in Colombia. So we kind of had a story ready because I knew there was going to be an issue. Yeah. I suspected that there was going to be some obstacles to overcome with immigration because I thought they'd want to know that. So we had this story together. We tried to stick to the truth as much as possible, and said that obviously Jose was Venezuelan, and we said that we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and that I'd been living in Venezuela, and that we'd been traveling around, and that now we were going to go to Europe together, and that we'd been in Merindad, and so that we'd come across that that border. And that we just hadn't had our passport stamps, and they were like, well, you can't just not get your passport stamp. So I just played dumb, I just played super dumb, well, I didn't know, we went through and the things were there and they didn't stamp them, and they were like, well, you should have got them stamped. I said, well, I didn't know that. And they were like, this isn't right, this is, dodgy. So they searched, they separated us, and then they searched our suitcases. Then they asked me if I consented to being taken to hospital so they could x-ray me to see if I had any...
Any swallowed any
cocaine? Any drugs, So I was so keen. I was like, right, can we go now and I'll pay for the taxi?
Yeah.
Rather than wait for a police car or something like that, let's do it now and I'll pay for the taxi, because if we go now, maybe there's even enough time to come back and get the flight still. And they were like, this is weird, something is not right here. And so then they said, right, you know what, we're not going to take you because this isn't right. We can see you haven't got drugs. And they were like, what is going on? And by this point, you can't kind of insult their intelligence, So, and we had a bit of money put by to pay them off because, like I said, we thought there'd be obstacles. So I said to them, look, okay, yes, there is something, but it's not drugs and it's nothing to do with Colombia. We just want to get to Europe, and there's no issues with Colombia. There's totally no drugs. I can't see what the issue is. How much will it cost to sort this problem out? And there were 2 immigration officers, and we gave them $200 each. And and they let us get on the plane.
My God, flew straight into Madrid. And then were you like, I'm totally free now, no one can get me?
Yeah.
Did you still have the fear in Madrid that someone can give you the tug?
I wasn't really sure what my status was, well, for a bit I was all right because I knew I'd bought 3 days grace.
Yeah.
Like, so when I'd left.
So there was 72 hours breathing space.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to make sure that I could get out of South America,
Yeah.
I was pretty sure that once I got to Europe, I was on a lot safer territory.
Did you hear anything through Jose about she's escaped? Did he hear through his mates working at the prison going, oh, she's escaped?
Listen to this, right, Dodge. So we were in Spain for 9 months. We were like trying to make a life for ourselves in Spain. We thought we'd live there, work there. And the plan was I'd get Nikita and bring her to Spain. But it wasn't working out, and after 9 months, we were running out of money. So I said to Jose, like, we should go, maybe we can go back to the UK. I was like, if we go back to the UK, I can get money, I'll get given a house, I can get a job, they'll put me on benefits whilst I get a job, and, which he struggled to understand, like the concept of all of that, because it doesn't exist in Venezuela. So I was like, right, let's find out what the deal is. So I phoned up my British Embassy. Well, I phoned up the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in London and asked them what my legal status was. I was like, look, what happens if I come back to UK? Do I have to finish my prison sentence off in the UK? Are you going to send me back to Venezuela? Do I have to finish my sentence off there? Like, what's the deal? And they didn't even know that I'd escaped jail in Venezuela.
Right,
Venezuela hadn't even told them. They were like, well, what do you mean? Obviously you can't come back yet, Natalie. You've still got 5 years left on your sentence. And I was like, you do know, don't you, that I'm not in prison? They were like, well, what do you mean you're not in prison? Like, where are you? I said, well, don't worry about that.
It's a need to know basis.
Don't worry about that. Just, can you find out what? And they were like, how long have you not been there? And I was like, 9 months. And they were just blown away, because they thought I was still in prison. And the Venezuelan authorities hadn't even notified them that I wasn't there. So then I told them that I'd ring them back like a week later and find out like what was going on, give them a chance to find out what was going on. So I phoned them back a week later. They'd liaised with Venezuelan authorities, and Venezuela had said that as long as I didn't go back there for the duration of my sentence, they weren't interested. And because I hadn't committed a crime on English soil, England weren't interested. So I was totally free to go back to England.
What a result.
Yeah.
So after that 9 months, after escaping the prison in Venezuela, flying back, living in Spain, dying to see your daughter, with the fear that if you do go back, you could get nicked in England. And then as soon as they gave you the heads up, you straight back to see Nikita.
Yeah, straight away.
And what was how long was it from the moment you had to hand over Nikita that horrible day to when she was back in your arms again?
4.5 years.
So she went from a 3-year-old to a 7.5-year-old.
Yeah, she didn't even recognise me.
Did she not?
No, she didn't know who I was. Yeah, until I told her my name. So we got to the UK, and as soon as I docked, I think it was Plymouth or Portsmouth. So I phoned her, but nobody in the UK knew either. Like, I hadn't told anybody that I'd escaped. Yeah, nobody. So I phoned Eve, who my daughter was living with, and was like, right, okay, I'm in Plymouth and come to Gloucester. Can I come and see Nikita? And she was like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you're in England and you're in Portsmouth and you want to see Nikita? I don't understand. I was like, yeah, I did a runner from Venezuela. So she just put the phone down on me. Like,
Good mate.
She put the phone down on me. So so she was with Jose, and I was like, I don't know if she's very happy with me. Like, we'll just go to Gloucester, and it gives her a bit of time to process what's going on. So then I got back to Gloucester, and my friend had a hairdressing shop there. So I just went straight to my friend's shop. I didn't know what to do. I had no money by this point. I'd literally used the very last little bit of money. Yeah. So I didn't even know where we were going to stay that night, So I went to my friend's shop and was like, right, and everyone was just like, what are you doing here? So then I phoned Eve again, who'd had time to kind of
process
a little bit. She said afterwards it was just such a shock,
Yeah.
you know, because she's been looking after my daughter and loved her as if it's her daughter.
Yeah.
And, you know, and if there'd been some preparation, she could have kind of got her head round it. So she said, well, you better come round then, hadn't you? But I remember her saying that she just didn't know how to tell Nikita. You know, she just didn't know how to say, oh, you know, if there had been a date or something, then she could have like
Built
pre-warned her
up,
and prepped her.
Yeah.
So she just didn't know. So she just didn't tell her. So we went round her house, and it's like she lived in a cul-de-sac. And as I went round, and I had Jose with me, and we walked around the corner, and I saw these two girls like playing on a little trailer. And as we got closer, I was like, I'm sure that's Nikita and her sister. She called her Kayana. She called her sister then. I was like, I'm sure that's Nikita and Kayana. And we got closer, and I was like 99%, but she'd just grown up.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, that is her. Yeah. So I just started talking to her, and I was like, okay, you know, and what are you doing, and where do you live, and like, what's your name? And she was like pointing out, you know, so she pointed to Eve's house and told me her name was Nikita and all that kind of stuff. And then I said to her that she shouldn't really be talking to strangers and telling them like what their name is and where she lives and stuff like that. And then I asked her if she knew my name. She said no. And I said, my name's Natalie. And she just stopped like dead in her tracks and just looked at me, and she was like, are you my mum? I was like, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, like she knew as soon as I said my name, she was just like, what? Yeah, so I said, yeah, I'm your mum. And then she just went running to Eve's house going, Mum, my mum's here. She was like so excited.
Wow. And then what happened there then? Because you've got Eve who's looked after for 4.5 years. Was Eve in that time angry towards you for you taking your daughter on a drugs smuggling mission? Was there anger around everything? Because at the moment I'd imagine Eve's 4.5 years in looking after a little 3-year-old girl who actually would become the kind of mum she probably didn't have at the time. What was that relationship like?
What, between me and Eve, or between Nikita and Eve?
You and Nikita's...
She was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, the
mum.
Yeah.
Not the mum, the stepmom, I guess.
Yeah, she was amazing. I mean, we'd had the thing like with Eve is she does not mess around with her words at all. You know, she is very direct and very, very blunt. You know, and sharp. You know, she can cut you with her tongue if she wants to. But we'd already gone through that. You know, like when I'd been arrested and I was in Venezuela and I'd spoken to her on the phone. You know, we'd already gone through like, what the hell were you thinking? And then she moved on from that because what's the point in going? You know, it's kind of it's done, isn't it?
And what was the relationship like with your daughter from 7.5 years old to now? Did you take your daughter back off Eve?
Yeah.
Immediately?
Not immediately. It's like we did quite a good process, really. Like, so I had to get somewhere to live. I got somewhere to live, and then I got a job, and then I got like a nice apartment. And then Nikita was just coming round like all the time, and then she'd stay the weekend, and then just blended in, and then Eve just said to me one day, she was like, "Isn't it about time your kid came back to live with you?" that's how she would speak.
And how old's Nikita today?
She's 24.
And what's your relationship with Nikita like at the moment?
At the moment, it's pretty good.
Good.
Yeah, I've been staying like since she came to see me in Spain, probably about a month ago. Yeah. She came over for 10 days and came to stay with me in Spain.
Lovely.
And nights when I landed here Tuesday night, and I've just been staying at her house.
Natalie, this is actually an unbelievable story you've got. Like mind blowing. Like you couldn't write this. When you were in it, did you know this was a ridiculous story? Now you're retelling it to me at the moment. Do you ever sit there and think, this just sounds like it's made up?
It just sounds nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like harrowing.
Yeah. But like at the time, it just becomes your normal.
Yeah.
You know, it just becomes your reality. Like it took about a year for me to kind of accept what was going on, and the reality of the situation, because it's just the conditions. And, when we're conformed to think a certain way, when you live a certain way, you don't understand that there's other ways, because that's just what you're used to. Yeah. So then when you're exposed to, these conditions and stuff, it's just like mind-blowing. But then you just get used to it, and then that just becomes your new norm.
So when you came back to England, were you thinking, right, I'm going to stay on the straight and narrow again, I don't want to be going to prison or whatever? Have you stayed out of prisons for these last sort of 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, that was my intention, was to go on the straight and narrow. Like, I'd had enough, I'd had, like, before Venezuela, I'd been getting in trouble. I just, savage drug addiction. My mum died while I was in prison in Venezuela. So I came back and I just wanted to do the right thing, and have a normal life. So I settled down. I had Jose. I settled down, and I got a job, and everything was doing really well. Everything was going well.
When you came back here, were you off the crack? Were you off all the crack? You off all the drugs? Okay, so you're straight and narrow. Okay.
Yeah, it was totally clean. I was off the drugs. And then I was working. I had a job when I was working for the clergy, like not directly, but my role was I was a financial services administrator for the clergy, and my role was to process and invest stocks and shares for bishops and archdeacons. And then I know, right?
Mate, you can't write this. Did they see your CV before they got a job?
Well, here we go.
Right, okay.
Right, so no.
No.
No, I didn't tell them.
Okay.
And then I was working for them, and my book got published. So just as my book was getting published, I was doing like a lot of promotion for it. I did some interviews on some radio stations and in the newspapers. So before those interviews got aired, I went to my employers, because I knew it was going to be like on I think a spread had been done by the local newspaper. So I knew that I was going to be on the front page of the papers with this story. And I was quite naive in thinking that the church was all about forgiveness, and encouraging and supporting people in reforming their lives to do better. So I thought that everything would be okay. So I went to my employers and revealed, what had happened, that I'd actually been in prison in Venezuela, and that I'd published a book about it, and that there was going to be some media attention around that. And I lost my job, because they said that if Archdeacon so-and-so found out that a convicted international drug smuggler was in charge of processing his stocks and shares, that it was not good for the company. What would you call it? Conflict of interests. That was it. And I was just really shocked by this, Dodge, because I really thought that, it was before I knew what the church was really like, and the church is about money and power. Yeah. It's not about anything else, and control. But I didn't know that at the time. I thought it was about, forgiveness and love. So I lost my job. And at the time, I had a mortgage. I had the financial responsibilities that come with, having a good job. So I tried to get another job, and I couldn't, because I was in the papers for this, promoting my book. So I used all my savings. So I'm paying my mortgage. I'm not earning any money. By this point, I'm living in a really nice area. I'm in a nice I've got a nice house, living in a nice area. My kid's going to a nice school that's in this area. Like, it's a life apart from, you know, the Natalie that before Venezuela, you know. And I'm really proud of these achievements, and I'm really happy, like, that my daughter is growing up in this safe area, you know. So I'm paying my mortgage, and just my funds are just depleting, you know, rapidly. All my savings, everything, it's just going. So it got to the point where I had to go. I thought, I'm going to have to go on benefits, which was just soul destroying, you know, because to have achieved all this, you know, and be in this place and then feel like I have to go back on benefits and go back down the job centre and back down that route again. It just reminded me of this, you know, 16-year-old, you know, drug addicted, you know, and the places, and I just thought, oh God. So I was just, you know, soul destroyed. But I had no other, you know, that was the only option that was left to me. So I went down there to the job centre, and I was told that because I owned my house, like not outright, but because I had a mortgage, I wasn't entitled to any help. I had to have my house, they said before they could help me, I had to have my house repossessed, and I had to be homeless, like with my daughter. And they said, and in which case then I could go to them. And they said that they would put me and my daughter up in a bed and breakfast. By the way, there were no bed and breakfasts in the catchment area that I lived in. So they said they'd probably have to send me to Bristol, which is just to get from Bristol to my daughter's school, you know, with those hours and stuff. It's just absurd. You may as well say, we're going to send you to Mars, you know, and if you can just drop your kid off at school in Gloucester every day and go back. It was just mental. And then they said, and then on top of that, it wouldn't be, like, they said every night I'd have to phone up and get, like, probably, like, a different placement in a different bed and breakfast, like, every night. And then they said, and then when I was in that situation, then I could go, like, then they would pay my rent for me, like, for the bed and breakfast. And then I could go, like, on a waiting list and get social housing. But until I was at that point, I wasn't entitled to any financial aid. So I just didn't know what to do, you know. Well, I couldn't bear that thought of just, I felt like my whole life was just being, like, ripped away from me, and I couldn't bear, like, putting my daughter through that. I thought, how is she gonna cope with that? How do you explain that to, I think she was like 9 or 10 or something at the time. So I made the really bad decision to get involved with drugs again so that I could pay my bills, so that I could pay my mortgage, so that I could keep the roof over my head, so that I didn't have my house repossessed, and so that I didn't get made homeless with my daughter and have to live in bed and breakfasts. And I thought that I just justified it to myself, you know, that I'm going to do this and pay the bill until the media attention's, you know, worn down, and then I can get a job again. And then once I've got a job, you know, I can stop doing that and pay my bills again. But I got caught.
Got caught with what?
5,000 pills and a couple of ounces of coke. 4,998 pills. I don't know where the other 2 went.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were landed back after escaping a Venezuelan prison. You landed back for how long were you in the UK for?
What, before that happened?
Yeah.
3.5 years.
So you're 3.5 years back in the UK.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I need to get back at it because I need a quick hit and earn a load of money.
I didn't know what else to do. I mean, I know, like, it sounds silly saying it, but I was so desperate. I just didn't know what else to do. I just did not know what else to do.
How did you get caught with 5,000 pills and how many ounces of coke?
It was 2 ounces of coke. Yeah.
How did you get caught?
It was in the house. I didn't know that it was in the house. Like, I was doing it with somebody else, and I thought that they had. They told me that they'd stashed it somewhere. That it wasn't in the house. They told me that they'd stashed it, and the police were watching. You know, I lived in a little.
So this is after you publish your book. So you're promoting your book, saying you're an international drug smuggler. They're red hot on you, and then you go serving up again. Wow.
Yeah, silly, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah,
Nat.
I know.
Jesus.
Yeah, and it's like, and again, it's so easy for people to judge, and it's like that point of desperation. You know, looking back on it now, well, yes, you know, it's what do you do? You lose the house, you get the house repossessed, and you're homeless, and you're on the streets, but just the thought of that at the time, you know, because I'd gone through so much, you know, to get there as well, and I'd inherited money as well.
How much?
Like I'd inherited like 30 grand, I think, and all this money had gone into the house.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so I'd had inheritance. You know, my mum had, and I felt like I was achieving something, and I'd inherited money from an auntie, and it was just to have all that like taken away from me. It just felt so unfair.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, hang on a minute. So all that money that I've inherited, and the money from the book, and all my wages that I've tried my best to do the right thing. You know, I made a really conscious decision when I had this money. You know, it was like oh yeah, I can go on holiday and blast money, and I was like, that's not the smart thing to do. The
were
smart
you
thing
using
to do is,
crack cocaine when you were dealing as well?
No.
So you were clean and dealing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you got clobbered, were you in the house?
No, I was in the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what sentence did they give you?
6 years, 9 months.
Oh, Natty.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
And how old were you at that time? Roughly? 26?
25, 26, 27. I think I was 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
And how old was Nikita when you got caught?
She was 11, I think.
So you'd been with her for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And then she had to get taken away from you again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she went to live with Eve again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. Naughty, isn't it? But you know,
What was it like for you when you were in the English court this time? Did they give you a bigger sentence because what you'd already been done in Venezuela?
I think so, yeah.
Because that sounds quite a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
And what prisons did they send you to? Yeah, what prisons did they send you to? And what was the standard of prison like compared to Venezuela?
So I went to Eastwood Park and Drake Hall. There's no comparison. You know, they're just...
So give me an example on a scale of 1 to 10, Venezuelan prison versus
10.
a scale of 1 to 10, British prison.
For 1. It's like a walk.
Really?
Yeah. But it's a lot more frustrating. Like English prisons, like are definitely a lot more frustrating because there's rules.
Yeah.
Like in Venezuelan prison, there's no rules,
Yeah.
but there's horror, but there's also that
freedom.
Yes, there's freedom, and then they try and counterbalance that horror with, you know, a party or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But in English prisons, like, the hoops that they make you go through are just so frustrating. And whilst I was in there, I was having like you know, everything. I lost everything anyway. You know, I lost it all. And the house got took off me, and you know, so it was a completely pointless exercise anyway, trying to salvage it all because I lost it all anyway. But I remember, like, they build these when you go in. They build these kind of sentence plans, they're called. And it's like, oh, right, we want you to do this course or whatever. And they wanted me to do this like money course thing. And I was like, are you actually joking? You know, I've just been turning over how many thousands a week, and I've got a mortgage, and I've got this. And you want me to do like this basic, you know, money management course? Like, I was like, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Can like go. No.
Did you rebel in the British prisons?
Totally.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
You're like, listen, I've done 5 years in Venezuela. Don't tell me what prison's like. Okay.
Yeah, totally. And like I said, just the frustration of it, of like trying to get me to do these like stupid courses. Like, I understand some people, they struggle with these things, and like, okay, they need some help or whatever. But you know, I think I said to the governor, I was like, listen, I would earn more money than you do, and I've got a house and a mortgage and this, and I don't need to learn what 2 + 2 is.
Did Nikita come and visit you in the English prisons?
Did to begin with, yeah.
And how old was she at that time?
Like 11, 12.
Okay.
She did to begin with, and then she got fed up with it.
Okay.
And
who was bringing her? Eve? Different people?
Social worker would bring her.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then she just got, she didn't speak to me for a long time.
And when you come out of the prison, how old are you? 33, 34?
23.
And
Yeah.
did you go on the straight and narrow when you come out of the prison that time?
Yeah, but like I lived outside. I lived in fringe societies because I lost everything,
Yeah.
you know, Dodge, which is it's my
Yeah.
fault. You know, I accept responsibility for that. But then I had a proceeds of crime court case
Yeah.
put on me.
How much around your neck?
Oh, it's like I think it was like something like 350, 400,000.
Totally exaggerated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, massively. And which I couldn't pay,
Yeah.
you know, and they took my house
Yeah.
and they took everything, which knocked about 5,000, because by the time the house got took, the mortgage hadn't been being paid anyway. And then before the police get the money, the bank have to get their money. But because I'm not there to sell the house, the house got sold at auction.
Yeah.
It got sold for like 30 grand. My mortgage was 94,000.
Yeah.
So then on top of my proceeds of crime, I also owe my bank now like 60 odd thousand. So I've come out of prison and I still owe all this money, which the British government can take at any time.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to do? You know, I can't, if I go and get a job, what am I going to, you know, what's the goal? The goal, if when you get a job, you know, the goal is to buy a house, isn't it? That's your goal.
Yeah.
That's why you're working, you know. I can't do that because I still owe the British government £400,000, you know. So I go and work in the British system. At any point, they can turn around and be like, well, you've still got this outstanding debt, you know, or you've got a house, we'll take it again. Yeah. And they can add to it. Yeah. So that's why I moved out of the country.
Okay.
Because I was just like,
so when you come out of the prison system, the British prison system,
I was angry.
You were angry.
Yeah,
right?
really angry.
33, 34 years old.
Yeah, fuming, angry.
So what have you done over the past 6, 7 years then since you come out? Did you go straight to Spain saying, get me out of here?
No. So I worked, I lived in, I went on the road and I lived in traveller communities.
Did you?
You know, yeah, caravans and trucks and on sites and fruit picking and worked festivals. Did festivals for like I did the whole festival circuit.
Did you?
Yeah, for like 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Boomtown, Glastonbury. I just kept on the road so that, and just avoided interaction with the government.
Yeah.
Really. You know, so if I'm not renting and I'm not buying a house and I'm living, you know, so that's
just a free spirit.
Yeah.
And then how long were you doing that for before you moved to Spain?
I was doing that. So I got out 2013 and I moved to Spain in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how's that life in Spain been for you this last 4 years?
Oh, I love it. Amazing.
Is it? Do you feel like it's a new Natty?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like I can build a life for myself over there. Like I'm completely legitimate over there. I've got all my Spanish papers. I've got my residency. I live on a spiritual healing retreat over there where I've done so much work on myself, medicine work, you know, ayahuasca and Cambo, and I really addressed all these issues.
Psychedelics. Is it psychedelics?
Well, not really. I mean, Cambo's not psychedelic.
Yeah.
Cambo's a frog poison. That's like a real detox thing.
A frog?
Yeah.
Poison.
Yeah.
Go on.
Cambo's a frog poison, which like you have some like little burn marks put on you by a vine, and there's a ceremony and a shaman, and then the frog poison's put into you, and it just like really purges you of illnesses, toxins, you know, negative energies, negative thought patterns. So that's not psychedelic at all. And then ayahuasca, I mean, you can't say ayahuasca isn't psychedelic because it's the main ingredient is DMT.
Yeah.
So
what does that stand for?
Dimethyltryptamine.
Okay.
It's in the pineal gland, so everybody has like the pineal gland, and they say that the evidence, the scientific evidence, is that DMT is stored in your pineal gland and it's released twice in your life cycle, like when you're born and when you die, and they call it the spirit molecule because they think this is where the consciousness is held, and where the soul is held, and that's what this release of DMT is the soul entering the body and then the soul leaving the body. But DMT is found in everything that grows, every leaf, plant, blade of
And
grass.
what's that feeling when you have taken ayahuasca?
God, it's quite difficult to explain.
Is it an out of body experience?
Yeah, you're vibrating at a different frequency, so it's almost like you're in between two worlds.
Yeah.
So you're still like on this plane, but there's a higher plane, and a higher consciousness,
Yeah.
and ayahuasca kind of puts you in between these two planes, and it really makes you confront your traumas. Like, everybody has traumas,
Yeah.
might not some people's traumas might be abuse, other people's traumas might just be that they got told no or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
There's different levels of traumas, and these traumas they affect us all. Now, sometimes we don't really understand or realize that those traumas are bubbling away, and they're still driving us, like subconsciously. They're the reason that we make certain choices, and negative behaviors and negative patterns. But if you're not even aware that is the trauma that is driving that decision making, then it's difficult to change that decision making.
Do you feel that you've dealt with your childhood trauma?
Yeah,
You
do now.
You do now at
Yeah.
the age of 41, 42?
44, yes.
44.
It's taken a long time, but
Wow.
yeah.
Do you feel like you're on the right path right now?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eventually.
Yeah.
I feel, and I feel that everything's led to this as well.
Yeah.
I've looked back and I'm like, that's mental, that was tough, that's crazy, but I feel like it's all to
Part
lead,
of the process,
to lead to this point, because without any of that, then I wouldn't be here today doing the things that I'm doing today, and have the awareness that I'm doing today. So it's just part of who I am. And if I hadn't have gone through that, the lessons that you learn through these experiences, that you can't learn them in a textbook, you can't learn them in school, and you can't learn them in college. And the only way to I don't know, excel at, you've got to go through some serious stuff to learn certain lessons so that you can be a better person. So now I'm just trying to be like the best version of myself.
Natalie, let's talk about your book. Your book,
Let's
Escape from Venezuela's Deadliest Prisons by Natalie Welsh.
Yeah.
When did you write this?
So I started to write that when I was in San Antonio, in Margarita, the first prison, because it was so mind-blowing. I was just like, I knew that there was a story to tell there, and I wanted people to know. I was like, I want people to know that this isn't just in the movies. Like, this is what it is like over here. So if you're thinking about, doing a drugs run to Venezuela, then, at least have all the information available to you. If that's a decision you want to make, signed, whatever, everyone has their own choices to make. But at least, be making an informed decision. And it was kind of like, I think it was my way of like processing as well what was going on. It's just like, this is insane. And I think I wanted it for myself as well, for like future reference, to just be like, flipping hell, like,
this has got to make a Netflix movie. This has to make a Netflix movie.
We're on it. Yeah, I'm working with I'm in collaboration with two writers. So they were based in France. I went to see them, and now they've moved over to Spain, and we're collaborating together.
Brilliant.
And it's a series. We're making a TV series, 5 seasons, 13 episodes, and we're in negotiations. I can't say too much about it at the moment. But it's going to be wild. And when you see it on TV, you'll be like, okay, that was the show she was on about.
I heard it firsthand.
Yeah.
Natalie, I've really enjoyed this episode.
Thanks for having me, Dogs. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming on and for your pure honesty. And you have been to hell and back.
Yeah.
With some of these stories.
Yeah.
And to where you are now, having your daughter beside your side, you must feel really proud.
Yeah.
You know, and listening to your voice a minute ago, it was heart wrenching.
Yeah.
At some of the points in this episode, and I really appreciate you coming on. You're gonna be a huge success with this Netflix movie.
Thanks very much, Taj.
I wish you all
It's
the
been a
best.
pleasure.
Nice one, Natty.
Thank you.
You take care.
And you.
Cheers.
Cheers.